Hey, Mike Filipov again here. I want to welcome you back to this video. And first I want to say that I'm blown away by the amount of positive feedback I received on my last video in comments about the video and also in emails that I received in addition to the comments. And it's a lot of fun for me, and I'm very excited to share more videos just like this with you to help you get much more results from your practicing. This is what I do. I love doing this stuff. So in the last video we talked about the most important problems guitar players deal with when it comes to making faster progress and becoming better. And if you did the assignment that I had you to do in the last video, then you probably found that your practicing efforts were not nearly as effective as you thought they were. And before we go any further, I want to reinforce the point that if you were shocked or maybe a little bit even upset to find out that your practicing was not as effective as you thought it was, I want you to put all those negative thoughts aside, just throw them out the window and realize that you discovering that your practicing is not as effective as you thought it was is actually cause for massive celebration. And here's why. Because your guitar playing habits and your guitar practicing approaches, all their negative flaws aside, got you to the level of guitar playing that you currently have. So you already reached a certain level of guitar playing and nobody will ever take that away from you. So that's good. And now, since you want to get to a much higher level, understanding why and how your current approaches will not get you there is very good. Because now all you need to learn is exactly what to do instead of your current approaches, and you will become the guitar player you want to be. It's like you sitting there practicing and being frustrated and someone tapping you on the shoulder and saying, hey, you know, everything you're doing right now is not going to get you to where you want to go, but here is what will. And so now in this video, we'll get to the here is what will part. And I'm going to show you 3 very effective and proven practice approaches that will show you how simple it is to solve any guitar playing problem you have and speed up the process of you becoming a better guitar player. And by the end of this video, you're going to see how much easier and how much more fun practicing can actually be. And I firmly believe this. Practicing guitar is really not rocket science. It's not that hard. I mean, if I could learn to do it, anybody can learn to do it. And when I first started, I didn't know anything about how to practice. I totally sucked. So again, if I could do it, I'm sure you can do it as well. I'm totally confident in that. And the reason why I say that practicing is fun is because once you watch yourself becoming better in real time after every practice session, you just become totally addicted to the process and you can't wait to do your next practice session and get a little bit better, and then a little bit better the day after that, and a little better the day after that. It just becomes a snowball of positive reinforcement with every practice session. It's awesome. The first process is called focus rotation, and it's a great concept for getting faster results from your practicing anytime you use a metronome when you practice, whether it is to build speed with something or to develop control with a certain item you're learning. A lot of guitar players have a hard time staying focused and engaged when they practice with a metronome because they're told to start slowly and then gradually get faster and faster. And that approach by itself, the way it's often taught, is just very boring because nobody tells you exactly what you should be thinking about and what to focus on. And I'm going to tell you right now. Step number 1 of this process is to pick an item that you're going to practice. It can really be anything you want, just don't make it too long. So don't pick a whole song or a whole solo to practice. Just pick one exercise, one excerpt of a song or a solo, something that can be played over and over again and repeated. So do that now. The next step is to make an inventory list of things you will pay attention to as you practice this item. And if you've never practiced in this way before and you don't know what to write down as your list of things to pay attention to, I'm going to tell you those things right now. I'll give you a partial list of the most important things to pay attention to. There are many others, but here are the main ones. The first one is your picking hand efficiency. So write that down. You got to pay attention to picking hand efficiency. The next item is fretting hand efficiency, which obviously means to focus on the fretting hand, make sure it's doing its job correctly. The next one is picking hand articulation, which is how hard you're picking the note, making sure the articulation is consistent and every note is articulated as loudly as it needs to be. The next one is two-hand synchronization, which means the ability of both of your hands to work together and to fret the note and to pick the note at the exact same time as you play. So that's 4 items so far. The next one is ability to control excessive muscle tension. So when you play guitar, and especially as you play faster, you don't want to be using any more tension than is necessary to play the notes you want to play. So write that down. That's going to be your item number 5. And item number 6 is going to be controlling excessive string noise, which is noise from any of the strings that you're not playing that makes your playing sound sloppy. So write this down now and you'll have your list of 6 items to pay attention to. So now you're ready to begin practicing. You should turn on the metronome to whatever your starting tempo is that you normally begin playing, and your task is going to be to play the item through 6 times, and each time through you're going to focus on one of the 6 items you wrote down in the previous step, which is why this method is called focus rotation. So first time you're going to play through the item, you're going to focus on your picking hand efficiency only. And then the next time you repeat the item immediately afterwards without stopping, so you play the item once through focusing on the picking hand, then immediately you go into the next repetition, but now your focus rotates or shifts to focus on the fretting hand. So you do that. And then when you repeat the item for the 3rd time, again without stopping or without any interruptions, you just continuously play over and over, your focus shifts again to think about the 3rd item on your list, then the 4th item, then the 5th, then the 6th. It will be easier to visualize this if you think of a clock face that has your main item in the center and then the 6 things you got to pay attention to that are written all around it. So you play the item once through, focus on the 1st item, then play the item the 2nd time through, focus on the next item, then so on with the next item, and then so on and so on and so on. And this is a very simple approach. There's nothing hard about this. You simply play the item and each time you change what your mind focuses on. But it has so many benefits to your guitar playing that you will see right away as soon as you apply this. First of all, it is very useful to practice in this way when your practice time is limited. If you don't have a lot of time to practice, you can simply do this for 10 to 15 minutes with one practice item, and you're going to improve many elements of your guitar technique in that 10 or 15 minute period of time. It's pretty amazing. The next very important benefit is that it's going to eliminate all boredom from the process of practicing. Because your mind is going to be focused 100% on each repetition you play, it's going to be impossible to be bored because you're going to be so focused and in the moment. Next, it'll make it very clear and easy for you to understand when it's time to increase your metronome tempo. This is something that a lot of guitar players struggle with, and I always get questions from people saying, okay, I practice with the metronome to build speed. When do I know that I'm ready to move on? And you will know that you're ready to move on once you're able to repeat the item 6 times in a row, focusing on each of the technical elements you're supposed to focus on, and you don't notice any flaws or problems with any of them. Once you can do this, repeat the item 6 times perfectly, you're ready to move on. And the next very important benefit is that you're going to know exactly what areas of your guitar technique are holding you back from playing at a higher level. Once you reach a certain tempo in the metronome, you're going to notice problems in 1 or 2 or 3 or more of the 6 areas you wrote down as things to pay attention to. So the things you notice problems in are going to be the exact things you need to improve that are holding you back from playing at an even higher tempo. So it's pretty amazing how by practicing in this way, you're going to get so many benefits at the same time, and all in a very short amount of time. And the next step of applying the focus rotation practice principle in your practicing is to focus on those areas of technique that you identified as holding you back from playing the item at the level you want. So, for example, let's say you reach a certain metronome tempo where you notice that you have problems with tension control and also controlling string noise at much higher speeds. The way to fix both of these issues, and actually the way to fix most technical problems, is to practice doing the opposite of what the problem is. I know this sounds very, very simple, but it actually is simple, and here's what I mean. If you notice yourself becoming tense in your picking hand shoulder at a certain metronome tempo, what you need to do to get rid of this tension is to focus your mind on making your shoulder be relaxed when you play. It's really all it comes down to. There's really no secret voodoo magic to get rid of muscle tension, for example. You simply need to focus on being relaxed when you play at faster tempos. But you need to identify the tempo where the tension first starts to appear, and when you do, it'll be so much easier to get yourself to relax at that tempo versus practicing to a much higher tempo where it's way harder to control. So you need to find the tempo where the problem first begins to appear and then practice doing the opposite of what the problem is to get rid of it. Same thing with excessive string noise. If you notice at a certain tempo you have strings ringing out that shouldn't be ringing out, simply observe, look at exactly where the problems are happening. Is the noise happening because of sloppy picking hand technique, or is the noise happening because of sloppy fretting hand technique, or maybe even both? Find where the source of the problem is, correct it, and practice doing the opposite of the problem to get rid of it. Does it seem very simple? A little more simple than it should, perhaps? Well, yes it does, because it is supposed to feel so simple. Once your mind becomes engaged in the process, all the doors open and you understand exactly what the sources of different problems are and how simple it is to fix them. And that's exactly what I want you to learn, and that's exactly how effective practicing is supposed to feel. The next highly effective practicing approach that will help you in cases when you already kind of know what you're struggling with when you practice something, but you aren't exactly sure how to solve the problem. For instance, let's say you're struggling with a difficult stretch required for your fretting hand, or you have to do a difficult position shift where you're playing something on one area of the guitar neck and then you have to shift to a different area of the guitar neck very quickly and continue playing seamlessly. Or it may be a problem, something in the picking hand, let's say a difficult picking motion that needs to be done, or a difficult string skip that has to be performed with the pick. And the way to solve all of these problems is to simply find a way, as the name implies, to exaggerate what the difficulty is. For example, if you're struggling with a difficult stretch to be done with your fretting hand and you can't seem to stretch your fingers easily, what you need to do is make the stretch even more difficult by moving it to a lower area of the guitar. And by lower, I mean lower in pitch, where the distance between the frets is bigger. So if you're playing something in the area of frets 8 to 12 on the guitar and it's difficult to stretch the fingers there, then you would move it way down to, like, say, the frets 3, 5, and 7, that area of the guitar neck, where the distance between the frets is much larger and it's harder to stretch. And at first it seems counterintuitive, right? Like, why would I do this if I'm already struggling here in the higher area of the guitar neck? But the way it works is by practicing something that's intentionally more difficult that you know you're going to mess up and have more trouble with. When you go back to the original, it's going to feel a lot easier. And that's the beautiful part about this. It's like trying to lift weight in the gym, and if you are trying to max out with an X amount of weight on the barbell when you're doing a bench press and you can't bench a certain weight, then load up even more weight on the bar and have somebody spot you to make sure you don't hurt yourself, obviously, but get used to holding this heavier weight in your hands and then put it back on the rack and then use lighter weights, whatever your normal weight is, and you will see how much easier it's going to feel. The same principle applies here to guitar playing. If you're struggling with, let's say, something in the picking hand where you have to do a difficult string skipping motion, then make the string skipping motion even wider. If you have to skip 1 or 2 strings, skip 3 or 4 strings, and you're going to see that it's going to feel a lot more difficult at first, but when you go back to the original, it's going to feel a lot easier. It's a simple trick, but it is very, very, very effective. And if you're struggling, let's say, with making position shifts on the guitar, something that doesn't require too much physical effort, but just as an issue of coordination, what you can do is simply practice it with your eyes closed. Literally just sit there, close your eyes, and make the position shift without looking. This is going to feel very difficult at first, and you're going to mess it up, you're going to land on the wrong fret, you're going to not know how to form the chord shape in midair if you're changing chords without looking. But again, when you open your eyes and you start looking again, it's going to feel a lot easier, and that is where all the benefit of this comes in. So with a little bit of creativity, with a little bit of creative thinking, you'll be able to come up with many, many ways of making whatever problem you're struggling with be exaggerated and make it even more difficult, but then when you go back to whatever the original item is, it'll feel easier, it'll be better, more accurate, more reliable. It'll work, it'll be awesome. The third technique I want to show you for practicing is called freeze framing. And this is a great tool for when you are practicing something and you know that something doesn't sound quite right in your playing. Something is not clean, something doesn't feel right. But you don't exactly know what it is. And it's frustrating when you're feeling this way because you want to get to the root of the problem. And this method is going to help you to do that. And in addition to helping you identify your problems easier, it'll help you also with building your speed and making your fast playing both sound clean and feel very easy. And it works like this. You start by playing the practice item you're working on at or near your maximum speed. So that should be somewhere between 80 to 90% of your top speed, for example. But instead of simply repeating it over and over, you're going to stop on different notes of it at random, totally random, stop on any note you want, and you're going to analyze the quality of that note. So you're going to ask yourself, is the note clean? Is it well articulated? Are my two hands in sync? Am I feeling relaxed? Am I hearing any string noise that I shouldn't be hearing? So basically you go through all the 6 things that we talked about when we described the process of focus rotation. But this approach is of course different because instead of repeating the phrase all the way through and focusing on one item at a time, you're going to stop on individual notes of that phrase and you're going to analyze each note as if you're putting it under a microscope and you're observing it, making sure it's absolutely perfect before you start over and then you stop on a different note at random and do the same thing. So you should do this with a practice item that can be repeated over and over, like a scale sequence, and it contains, let's say, 20 or 30 notes in a scale sequence, and you stop on different notes at a time and make sure they're clean, and then you move on to the next note. And so after you do this analysis of a single note, and if you notice the note is perfect in every way, that's great. All you need to do now is repeat the same process and play the next note, stop on a different note, totally at random, and do the same type of analysis. And if the answer is no to one of those 6 items, that means you discovered a problem. You discovered one more thing that you need to refine that's going to take your playing from where it is right now to a slightly higher level. And each time you do this, you're going to get better and better and better. And doesn't this fill you with an awesome sense of empowerment now? It totally should, because every time you fix a little problem, you're going to get a little better and a little better and a little better. And before you know it, you're going to look back and you're going to see that you were before at this level and now you're at this level. And it's totally inspiring, and that is awesome. So of the 3 methods I described to you, the focus rotation method, the exaggerating the difficulty method, and the freeze framing method, the first 2, focus rotation and exaggerating the difficulty, focus on solving problems, on actually getting you better. And the third method, the freeze framing method, focuses more on testing how well your practicing has been up to this point and how well your guitar playing is now holding up at faster tempos that are approaching your maximum speeds. And also, the freeze framing method helps you to identify future problems that you are encountering in your playing at your top speed and around your top speed that you will need to pay attention to and refine further when you go back to the problem-solving tools of focus rotation and exaggerating the difficulty and other methods that we don't have time to get into in this video. But the point is, different practice tools are used for different applications to help you in different ways become a better guitar player. So to help you apply these practice approaches that I went over in this video and remember them, I want you to download the PDF file that is on the page with this video that is called 3 Ways to Solve Your Guitar Playing Problems. And it outlines all the steps that I talked about in this video on how to go through each of the 3 practice methods and how to apply them when you're practicing. So this will be very handy to have as you go about your practice sessions. And you need to now take whatever practice items you're struggling with improving and take them through these 3 methods, and you'll be blown away by what you discover and how much faster you will finally start to see progress. So I want you to realize and take away 3 very important points at the end of this video. The first one is that it's really not hard, as you have seen, to practice guitar effectively. These 3 practice approaches I described to you, as effective as they are and as powerful as they are are really not hard. There's nothing difficult about any of the steps, and you can do them and see the results right away. Next, anytime you discover a problem in your guitar playing or in your practicing or in your technique, you should not be feeling depressed or frustrated or angry. You should be very, very excited. You should celebrate those moments. Because remember, your guitar playing is already at the level it is at, and it's always going to stay there. But once you fix the problems that you're discovering in your practicing all the time, you are going to get better. So solving problems is how you get better. That's a very, very important thing to keep in mind and realize. It's not only about learning more new things that is going to make you better, oh, that's part of it, of course, but it's also solving problems that's going to move you forward much faster. And lastly, even though it's obvious that there are a lot more details that go into fully mastering each of these three methods, and that there are also more than 3 practicing methods, obviously, for playing guitar and learning guitar, I don't want you to be bogged down by trying to learn all the little details right now. I want you to just focus on the big picture of the most important steps of those approaches that I took you through in this video and begin applying them in your practice sessions. This is going to help you experience what I call proof of concept, which means it's going to help you build the confidence in your own mind of your ability to transform your guitar playing. Once you apply these practice approaches and you see the results, before you even learn all the little details that could make it tweak things and make things a little bit more effective, you get the big picture down first and you see the results right away, and then it will be time to learn more, fill in the details that will make you even better, even faster. But right now, just focus on the big picture, don't get bogged down with the details. That being said, I do want you to write down your questions and your comments down below in the box for leaving comments below this video, and I'll do my very best to go through them and answer all your questions. I just hope that I'll be able to get through all of them, because I expect the feedback to be pretty overwhelming and massive as it was in the last video. But still, leave all the comments you have. I'll be happy to read them and I'll do my best to reply to them. Now, in the next video that I'm going to release tomorrow, I'm going to talk about another very, very, very important and key difference between why some guitar players always progress quickly and others don't. I already talked about the issue of mindless practicing, so you already know about this. But now I'm going to talk about the difference between even those guitar players who understand how to practice, they understand what they need to do, and they're practicing the same things, but some players may still often progress much faster than others. I'm going to talk about this other difference in tomorrow's video, and that is going to help you to greatly amplify the effectiveness of all the practicing concepts I've already shared with you and get even better results and bigger results much faster. So you definitely want to not miss this video. Come back tomorrow, it'll be here, and we'll talk more about how to get you to where you want to be as a guitarist much faster. So for right now, make sure to grab the PDF file that goes over the concepts I talked about in this video. Ask me all the questions and comments you have down below, and I'll see you in the next video.